All right, everyone, let's put our first conversation this morning quickly on the road, one that focuses on the barrage of tariffs that the U.S. President Donald Trump has hit countries across the globe with, but in particular, what this means for our country, Nigeria, and whether or not we responded, plus what kind of response have we given in this regard. We're joined by a development lawyer, is Onyekpere, this morning to help us look at what exactly should be the ideal response to this kind of development, and in the case of Nigeria, what it is that we are missing. He joins us via Zoom live from Abuja, Nigeria's capital, on the program this morning. Barrister Onyekpere, first we apologize for the delay in bringing you on, and we also want to say we appreciate you coming on the program.
My pleasure being here. Thank you. Good morning, fellow Nigerians.
All right, so let's begin. I mean, first things first, right? Nothing Donald Trump has done now that comes to those who saw his first 4 years between 2017 and 2021 as a shock. However, it will appear this is the first time in real term that Nigeria is having his own share of what's in local parlance we call breakfast. Are we responding at all? If we are, what kind of response have we issued so far?
Well, it appears Donald Trump took up the whole world. So it's not about Nigeria. He took up Europe, his closest allies, took up Canada, took up China, and indeed every country in the world. In his idea of reciprocity, whatever you buy from the US, and then they also expect them to buy said. Well, to the best of my knowledge, since this was announced, I think it was yesterday or 2 days ago, I had the coordinating minister of the economy saying, oh, the economic management team will meet to fashion out a response to what has happened. So they have not met, they have not come up with any response at all. But I doubt what kind of response Nigeria will be given, because our trade with US is not that so deep except in energy products. And then, of course, we got a slap on the wrist, one of the least tariffs that he imposed, because there are countries he gave as much as 20-something, 30-something, 40-something percent. So I don't see so much response from Nigeria officially. Rather, for me, as we progress on this discussion, I will unveil what I call the opportunity in Donald Trump's decision to hike tariffs across the world, especially for Nigeria and developing countries.
All right, but now that's interesting, because we understand the United States is now also criticizing Nigeria's import ban on agricultural and pharmaceutical goods. Does that come anything close to a response in this regard?
The ban had been there for some years. It cannot be, you could not have put a decision of 2015, 2016 as a response to a decision made in the last couple of days. So it cannot be a response. This has been policies we put in place in consideration of level of development to see if certain specific sectors of the economy could be made to pick up and start producing enough to supply the local market. So I don't think that's a response. But their criticism is very well noted. And for me, our response to that criticism will be to tell them that their idea, okay, of opening up the economy and the economics as well is no longer the classical economic theories we were taught. We are now discussing somebody doing something against the idea of opening up world trade, against the idea of reduced tariffs. And the WTO has said it clearly that, and even the IMF and the World Bank, everybody is complaining that this may lead the world into a recession. And indeed, many stock markets have lost a good part of their value, including the Nigerian stock market in the last couple of days. So if he is expecting everybody to have uniformity of tariffs, what happens to the idea of competitiveness, of the fact that you can do something better than the others? But they're not the ones who are telling everybody to open the markets. So what we did since 2015 is not in any way related to what Donald Trump is doing today.
Incidentally, you just mentioned competitiveness. I'd like to ask you, Mr. Onyekpere, what exactly in this regard is Nigeria's competitive advantage?
You have to first of all start producing goods and services before you can now determine the areas where you have competitive advantage. And countries are entitled to use tariff and non-tariff measures, to use the economic policies to support their local industries. If you remember, the American government has no factory of its own. So all these tariffs are in support of American companies. Okay? So that's exactly what Donald Trump is doing. For instance, today, why I say it's an opportunity, look at the huge refinery and petrochemical complex that has been done by Dangote. We produce crude oil in abundance. We're even begging OPEC to extend our quota. I don't think we have up to 2 million barrels per day quota. And from time to time, there are reports that our cargoes on the high seas looking for buyers. So, why are we still dragging in giving Dangote Industries and other refineries sufficient petroleum products, I mean crude oil, which should be outside our OPEC quota, for them to refine, satisfy the local market, and then possibly export to other, let's say, African and Asian countries and European countries? We have competitive advantage there. We produce it. We are looking for buyers. So why is it that the government, instead of supporting the local industry, is saying, oh, we don't want to continue Naira for crude for Naira, whatever? You now remember you need competitiveness, that you still have to continue importing refined crude oil. And in fact, the statistics we have is that last year they imported about 15 trillion Naira worth, which is even more than we were doing in previous years. And we were told at some point in time that refined petroleum products, we are consuming close to or between 30 and 35% of all our foreign exchange. And that puts pressure on the Naira and continues its depreciation. We are talking about 1617 to the dollar. So if you now have sufficient capacity for local consumption and possibly for exports, why are you still importing? Why are they not using their heads? Why are they talking about, oh, they want the petroleum sector to be competitive? Competing with who, when other people who are more knowledgeable, who taught you basic economics, are protecting their industries? So it shows the lack of patriotism on the part of the leadership, because I believe this is commonsensical. You don't need to be an economist or a chartered accountant. It's not rocket science to know that the thing you produce in abundance, you should try to export some, use locally, instead of wasting your hard-earned dollars and pounds and yen to continue the importation. So that's an example of what we can do. And of course, labor is cheap here, and we have huge agricultural land that is even wasting. So why should anybody in good faith begin to think of continued importation of agricultural products? So I think that's a no-brainer for anybody, including the United States government, to accuse Nigerians that we should have opened our boundaries for them to dump products, okay, on Nigeria, when we have more than abundant land and labor is cheaper in Nigeria. So we should be able to compete in that area as well. We can talk about a lot of other sectors. It's only a question of, do we have the right policy mix to keep those factors of production, to energize them, and to keep them at home?
The tariff that Mr. Trump has slammed on Nigeria is 14%. Now, given all of the elements and factors, how bad is that for our country?
If those products were coming in, okay, to America at cheaper tariffs, assuming the tariff on them was 5 or 10% or no percent at all, which means they can get to the American market and be competitive enough with their homegrown products, and Nigeria will continue to earn foreign exchange from those products and services when they're exported. But now with 14%, it may be more difficult for those products, goods, and services to compete with goods that are manufactured locally in the US. So, in essence, that will deprive Nigerian companies of earning some little foreign exchange that they could have earned from the United States market. I don't have the statistics immediately of what exactly we export, but I think it's more or less energy products. Then it's a little bad because it may stop us from earning some hundreds of millions of dollars we were hitherto earning from exports.
Okay, so there's the development now of how some African countries have responded to these developments around tariffs from the United States. What should Nigeria be learning from this? Because there are also analysts across the world, even back at home in Nigeria, who have said that Africa as a continent will likely be the worst hit with all of these barrage of tariffs. What should Nigeria be learning from the African countries that have now responded to these tariffs?
Now, African countries, if they had the good sense Europe has, should have responded as a group, not as individual countries, because here you are dealing with a giant. And most of these countries are Lilliputians if you have to compare them with the behemoth called America. So it was better that these small countries banded together and responded to the American challenge as a group. And America may take them more seriously if they responded as a group. Of course, you see that Donald Trump is adamant. Even the offer of zero tariffs on cars and industrial produced goods made by the EU, he dismissed it that is not sufficient, that's not enough. So not to talk of countries that hold no serious trading relationships or that, there's no special link between them and the US. So for me, the lesson we have to learn is that these things are happening because the whole world has created a very huge superpower, a very huge behemoth that can decide to take up everybody at the same time. So the lesson is that people should turn inwards. Sit down in your country and see what you can do for yourself. To an extent, call the bluff of that big bully who is simply breaking up things in the China shop and daring everybody. Okay? And that we can do by looking inwards. I've always said it on some of your earlier programs. We can start looking at the sectors where we can compete. Doing things like, for instance, there are upcoming local car assembly and manufacturing plants. Could we for once say that all government procurement of new vehicles, if they can be made in Nigeria, since it's America first, what stops us from saying Nigeria first? Okay, you patronize them first, and government is usually the biggest buyer in the economy. So you can imagine if from plants that produce not more than 10, 15, 20,000 cars or vehicles a year, through government patronage, local government, state government, and federal government, they suddenly have orders of 100,000 cars. They are going to employ more people. Okay, the vast arable agricultural lands, put them to productive use. And of course, as we are discussing the energy crisis, I heard recently that government is thinking of banning the importation of solar panels. It's not even about banning. Whatever Naseni is doing, they should ramp up their productive capacity to be able to at least take up to 50 to 80% of the local market before you ban. And when you do that, even if it means some form of subsidy on those energy products, that every Nigerian home could have a few of these things on their rooftops and begin to supplement the grid, the power from the grid, which is not enough. And by the time you do this and the cost of producing energy reduces, it will help local industries, particularly in the rural areas where some value addition can be done to agricultural products, their lifespan and shelf can be preserved, and farmers will earn more. So what I'm saying in essence is that there is a lot that can be done. But the first and most important thing is to recognize that nobody is going to develop Nigeria except Nigerians in Nigeria and in the diaspora. America, Britain, China, Russia, everybody looks out for himself. So until we understand that thing fully and begin to look out for ourselves, not to think of ourselves in the traditional divisive way of Christians and Muslims. Oh, this is Southwest, this is Southeast, this is Northeast, building railways that crisscross only two parts of the country, making investments, borrowing money and putting it in side A and refusing to talk to side B. We must band together and build that patriotic nationalism spirit that will allow us to begin to take advantage of our innate and God-given qualities and capabilities.
Incidentally, Donald Trump has announced these series of tariffs, and he has moved on to other things. Meanwhile, we're waiting for a response from Africa as a continent, and of course, indeed, from the giant Nigeria. Do we have the luxury of time? Because they say time is of the essence. Do we have the luxury of time to continue to get our act together and then respond to these adequately and effectively?
We do not have that luxury of time, because even before Donald Trump's tariff war, Africa and Nigeria in particular have been a people left behind in time and space. Other parts of the world are moving on, developing science in space, going to Mars, going to the moon, breaking the atom. We are nowhere. So if this can serve as a wake-up call, we needed to do something 15, 20, 30 years ago. If today we can wake up to start doing it, well, that's good. So we do not have the luxury of time. We should have taken these bold steps some years ago, okay? And that would have helped us to stop this continuous scramble for Africa's rich minerals, all the major wars in Africa happening because the people can't get themselves together. And the kind of things we have in Nigeria today, where all kinds of insecurities are growing, and a good part of them are attributed to foreign influences. So we should have gotten our acts together years ago. But if this can serve as a rude awakening, a good wake-up call, I accept it, and I will thank Donald Trump for doing that.
Just before we let you go in the next 2-3 minutes, Mr. Onyekpere, there are analysts and experts who believe that these tariffs have been slammed on these countries in Africa, amongst other reasons, for the fact that there are now nations on these continents who in recent years have started gravitating more towards China and Russia. Should Africa continue to look in that direction, or find a way to creatively, if you like, well, improve on its relationship with America?
The question you ask has a supposition that Africa can only develop when they support either the Western powers or the Eastern powers, whether we support America or Europe or China or Russia. That's not the case. That's not how people plan their life and livelihoods. And of course, to even put a light to that supposition, Europe and America and Canada, we are supposed to be best of pals, working together in NATO, cooperating. But of course, you can see that Donald Trump has broken all the ties, insulted and abused all the sensibilities that held these people together, including their military partnership. So it's not about gravitating. It is about working on your own feet without looking for Chinese support, American support, Russian support, or European support. If they are supporting, they support you from afar, but the development agenda remains yours, directed, grown, and dictated and managed by you. But if anybody wants to support you, he supports you on your own terms, and not on saying, oh, since we are being punished because we gravitated towards China, now let us gravitate towards America. So what stops the Chinese from also trying to see what they can do? So we are behaving like little boys that don't have a sense of direction. A slaps you, you will say run to B. B slaps you. Why don't you stop the bullies and stand on your feet and walk? And anybody who slaps you, you either slap him back or warn him that he will suffer terrible consequences if he slaps you again. So it is not about West or East, China, America, Russia, Europe, or whatever. It is about Africa being able to stand on its own feet and take its place in the sun of human civilization.
Oh, great. I think that would be a very brilliant point where we are going to leave it this morning. We'd like to appreciate you for your expertise as always, Mr. Onyekpere, for your time with us this morning. And we hope you have a great day.
My pleasure.
This is where we take a quick break now, everyone. When we return to other issues, particularly as it has to do with the Chinese-Nigerian strategic partnership, whether it's in trade or in diplomatic relations. What exactly do they hold for both countries? We'll let you in on that after this break.